Hey, hi. Welcome back. So, guys, as part of the previous session, if you observe, right, we have created a sample test, right? So, though we haven't created it, it's a sample test that was created by the Detox configuration. We simply ran it and we were able to execute a one particular test from where the couple of questions that were triggered in our mind, like how exactly the locator strategy that we need to use. And prior to that locator strategy, what is this describe? What is this before all? What is this it? And what is this async, await? We don't know all those things, right? So we need to understand more about this one. So let us get started and let us study more on this one. So in order to work on this particular detox testing framework, you need to have a good understanding on either a JavaScripting or a TypeScripting. Moving further in the upcoming set of videos, I will be putting some set of videos on a JavaScript and some set of videos on a TypeScript as well. Both the JavaScript and as well as a TypeScript I will be attaching further to these videos to get some understanding what is the syntax of this JavaScript, what is the syntax of this TypeScript, how we need to write it down, are there any major differences between JavaScript and a TypeScript. All those things I will be adding in the next session, basically next section. Okay, that's fine. So the keywords like whatever we have a seen right now, like a describe, a before all, before each, it, async, await, all these are a part of the testing framework that we are using for this detox. So guys, if you remember, as part of the configuration of this particular framework, right, a detox to your project, prior installing a detox, we have installed a JEST, JEST, just we have installed that. So all these are coming from that particular JEST itself. Okay, all these things, describe, before, wait, all these things are coming from our JavaScript based testing framework. Okay, so each and every keyword does has a lot of significances. Okay, that will be used for certain purpose, basically. In order to understand these things in a much more clear way, so I was just navigating to these globals of this particular gist. This is the official documentation of it, and if you see this one, the first it is starting with a describe. So let us go on the left hand panel. If you look at it, all the references, whichever the methods that you want to look at it, all the methods were there. Okay, so let me highlight you one more time. See here, the various methods are there, and if you select the respective method here at the center portion of the screen related to that method, the complete details about that method would be displayed. Okay, this is what from the official website itself. So just.js.io slash docs.api. So this is from their official documentation. So for today, what we will be doing here is let us understand what is a describe, what is a before all, before each, it, all these things, just four. And as we were discussing a before all, we will also discuss after all, and before each, and the counterpart is an after each. So let us discuss all these things from their official documentation. So let's go back and let us see here, describe followed by a name and a function. See here, describe followed by a name, and this is a function. So a function, we are not giving any name. Consider that it's an anonymous function, so we are not giving anything, right? So if you might have studied in a Java or any other programming languages, ideally every function does has a name. If at all we don't have any name, that's going to be an anonymous. So this is an anonymous function. So here, describe, the syntax, it's going to be a name for that particular describe, and the function, see here, describe, this one creates a block that groups together several related tests. So if you look at this particular example, what they are saying is multiple tests will be together with this particular describe. So that's the reason, if you look at the example what Detox has generated, one, two, three different tests are grouped together in this particular describe itself. So describe creates a block basically that groups together several test cases into a single unit. So here in this describe from that official documentation, if you have a look at it, it does has one test and the second test. Two different tests are there in this particular describe. Okay, in this particular describe, we have a two different tests. Immediately, a question might comes in your mind, Surendra. Here, as per the documentation, they are using a test, and in our document or in our program we have an it. What is the difference between these two? So we will study it in the next few minutes. Okay, but one thing that we need to consider, the first one is a describe. The describe means the group of test cases combined it together, we call it as a describe, which we can call it as a suit. Perfectly all right. And the next one here is a before all. So let me search for the before all here. So here is the before all. So here, if you look at this before all, so this is an asynchronous before all. So this before all runs a function before any of these tests in the file runs. Okay, if the function returns a promise or a generator, just will wait for the promise. So here we don't know anything about a promise, right? We don't have any idea about a promise. So this promise we will be looking at as part of the next lecture. For now, what we will be doing here is a before all. That's a function basically. It will execute before executing any test cases. All. Before executing all the test cases, the content present in a before all would be executed. See here, we have a three different tests. So the before all will execute for once before executing all the tests. Perfect. The counterpart for the before all is an after all. So if you go to the after all, basically, so this thing it's stating that runs a function after all the tests in the file got completed. So which means that in this particular describe, we have a three tests. The before all will execute first before executing all the three test cases, which means a kind of a preconditions like establishing a connection with your database, establishing a connection with your Zira, all those things would be defined as part of this before all. Okay, and then the next one here is a before each. If you look at a before each, runs a function before each and every test will execute. See, basically we have a three different tests. Before executing each and every test, the test content or the content present in a before each would be executed. So which means the overall precondition would be defined in a before all. The test specific precondition would be defined in the before each. Consider that I want to get a specific test case in a Zira that would be retrieved before each. So we will be passing the dynamic test ID from this particular it, so that the before each will be retrieving the current test execution from the Zira. Just an example. And on the counterpart, we have an after each also. The after each will execute once after the test got completed. So the ultimate point here is before all. Before all will be executed before executing all the tests in that particular file. Before each will be executed before executing each and every test in the file. After all would be executed after executing all the tests. And after each is the one that will be executing after each and every test. And after that, so we know about a describe, before all, before each, after all, and an after each. The next one that it is pending here is an it. So let's come back here. Let us look at this particular test. Okay, let us look at this particular test. Okay, so from where the test is starting? Yes, here is the test is starting. Also under the alias it. So which means that you can define either a test or also you can define it as a it. From a just perspective, if you define it as a test or a it will be recognizing or it will be considering as one and the same. What you need to do, all you need to do in a test file inside the test method which runs as a test basically. So whatever the test that you want to execute, whatever the core logic that you want to execute, that will be kept as part of an it or as part of a test. Okay, perfectly all right. So Surendra, with this, what I have understood is I got a clarity on a describe, before all, before each, after all, after each, and a it or a test. Still, I was having a small confusion with respect to a promise that we studied a few minutes before, and what is this await and what is this async. So that we will be discussing as part of a next session, guys. Okay, thank you very much. See you again in the next session. Bye bye.